Welcome to Advanblack's YouTube channel. I'm Steve, the service technician for Advanblack. Today I'm going to be showing you guys a brand new fender that's coming out for Advanblack. It's going to be the rear fender, and it's kind of a stretched version of the CVO fender. Here's the fender right here, guys. Now this is for a no cutout, and I've got one over there for the Road Glide that actually has the exhaust cutout on it too for dual exhaust. We will offer this in no cutout, single cutout, and dual cutout. This one being the no cutout, if you have a side dump exhaust or maybe some custom turn downs like we have on the Street Glide back here, you don't have any exhaust coming out the back. That would be your no cutout. Single cutout is going to be a 2-into-1 single pipe, and then of course your dual cutout for dual exhaust. If we get this a little closer, you can see right here we've got a curved license plate that's kind of Frenched into it as well. So this is curved. All of this will come included with the fender. So you can get this in chrome or black. And of course your standard CVO tail lights that run vertically up and down the outside perimeter of the fender. And this is a one-piece fender. The entire thing is ABS. We've included the seat mount post, and then of course your standard 2 holes up here if you want to take the bracket off of your fender now to run a solo seat. You'll need these holes up here. I'm also going to flip this over so you can see the upgraded wire harness. We've taken everything and we've run it down the side of the bike. And you can do this one of two ways, and we'll cover that when we get into the install. So the first thing that I do when I do a rear fender swap out is get all of this stuff out of the way. If you got a tour pack, get it off. Get your saddlebags off, get your side covers off, your seat off, all that stuff. Get it off. Get it out of the way. You don't want to take the chance of hitting anything, scratching anything. The first thing that we want to do is go ahead and get the fender extension out of the way. You've got 3 bolts on this side, 3 bolts on this side. You've got a bolt that goes through your fender and through the fender bracket right above your tri-bar light. You want to get up in there with a little ratchet and go ahead and loosen that so the fin from the inside of the fender extension can pull down. While it isn't necessary to remove the fender extension to get the fender off, I'm telling you guys, it's a lot easier if you go ahead and take it off, because it's going to give you this much more play down here on the bottom to roll this fender out and in. Now once you have the 3 nuts out on the outside and the bolt loose in the middle, you want to reach in and unplug your tri-bar light. You got a clip on both sides. Pull those wires out and disconnect the tri-bar light. Once you have these wires disconnected from the tri-bar light, follow on the inside path here on the left-hand side. If you have the stock fender extension, you're going to have a clip in there. It's going to have that wire tucked on it. Just go ahead and pull that out. And take the fender extension, pull these sides out, kind of start wiggling it down until it comes off. Now from there, you're going to have a bolt right here behind your saddlebag latch bracket, and then one back here in the back. It's not behind the bracket, it's right here, but this one is behind the bracket. So depending on what style of saddlebag knobs you have on here, you want to remove this so you can gain access to this hole. You want to do that on both sides. Like I said, you got a hole here and a hole back here. So inside here, you're going to have a Torx 40 bolt. One in here, one in here. I like to use these. You can pick these up cheap just about anywhere. Go ahead and run that in and back that screw out. Now if you have trouble getting that bolt out once it's loose or it's getting caught up in here, one of these little magnetic rods that are also cheap fit right in there, and I can pull that out. I'm going to do the back side as well. Repeat on the other side. This bolt right here holds this whole fender strut onto the frame. So right directly behind this is the frame. This bolt just goes in the frame. We will be removing that. But the 2 that you just wanted to remove is behind this bracket and right back here. Those are the actual 4 bolts that hold the fender to the frame. And to make this a lot easier to get this out, you want to take this frame and let it loosen up and pull apart. So this brace and this brace over here, you want to go ahead and remove these bolts here, and it's going to allow that to just kind of pop out. Then we'll have 2 more down here on the fender bracket that I go ahead and remove just to make this a little bit easier. So we'll pull this one, do the same thing on the other side. Then right here in the back, right here, and the same on the other side. If you follow this along, there's a metal bracket that goes right here, goes under your fender. That's the fender bracket that we talked about earlier. I'm gonna go ahead and loosen those. Just like that, you see that the whole entire thing is loose now. The only thing holding this bracket in there is that nut that we loosened up above the tri-bar light earlier to let the fender extension slide out. So that right now is being held on there by that bolt and nut that's in the fender. This bracket simply goes in, wraps around the inside of your fender, and comes back out on the other side. Now what that's done is loosen that from the bike. Now what that has done is loosen this up enough where I can jimmy this fender down onto the tire, and you can see this nut, and you got the same one on the other side. Go ahead and take those off, pull the bolt from the inside and lay those off to the side. The only thing that we really have trouble getting to are the back two, but that's okay because we have all of this loose. We can kind of squeeze in on the fender and pull the fender right out. This is going to be a 3/4 inch right here. I'm just use a ratchet to go ahead and pull those. Reach up behind there and pop that bolt out. When this was through the fender, it looked like this, and you can see the inside of this bolt is threaded as well. That's the first 2 bolts that we pulled out. That goes through your frame into that, which holds the fender to the frame. So this is what you got when you take those out. All we have to do is repeat the same thing on the other side. Go ahead and put the stuff back together. We're going to be reusing it. Now from here, everything is disconnected. So what I like to do, we have those 2 nuts out up front so we don't have to do any squeezing up there. That one will just come right out. The only thing we have to worry about are the 2 that were remaining in the back that are really kind of hard to get up in there and get those nuts out. So what I'm going to do is roll this fender forward. I'm going to pry these apart a little bit, and I'm going to try to jimmy this fender out. And if you have to, you can stick your fingers down in here like this. You can push in on the sides of the fender to push those nuts in a little bit to clear these braces. And there you have your rear fender out. Now we're ready to install the new fender. Now before we go any farther, I want to flip this fender over and show you guys what's going on with the wiring harness. You can do this one of 2 ways. Just like it's hooked up right now, where all your wires run down the left side. So if this is flipped over, that's the left side fender. You can run it down the side where your wire harness is now from underneath your seat. You can cross under here. We've got clips under here that's going to keep this wire tucked up against the fender. So you can run 1 wire over to this blinker and 1 to your license plate, or you can take this right side wire and actually run it down the right side of your bike. You're going to have plenty of room to do it both ways. So once you have everything installed the way that you want to install it, the way that you want to run your wires, you can simply just put it on the bike and then pull this up alongside the frame, put it over the top of your battery right there and plug it in. Right here on the top of your battery, you're going to have a black plug and a gray plug. Don't mind all this other stuff that's on here. This is all Zero stuff. But right here next to your ECM on top of your battery, you're going to have this grayish white plug and your black plug. Your black plug is your rear wiring harness. Your gray one goes up to your fuel tank. So you would just simply unplug this, however you have this stuff. I've got some stuff daisy chained into mine for additional lights that we have, but if you're just working with stock, you're just going to unplug that. This wiring harness goes back to the back and goes to your lights. You can either leave the stock one in there if you want to, or you can completely remove it. Once you get it unplugged up here, you follow this alongside the frame. You're going to have a couple of cable clips right here, and you'll see where it comes out down here went to the tri-bar light. So this one went to the tri-bar light. It goes through the tri-bar light, comes out the other side, and then back up to your tail light. You're no longer going to need any of that stuff. When you have that plug up here, you can run one side down here and plug straight into the tail light, or you can run all 3 down this side and the one across the back of the fender that plugs into the right side. Either way you want to do it will work. Now over here on your stock fender, there's a couple of things that we need to remove that's remaining on this fender that we're going to reuse on the new fender. And of course we removed the 2 bolts from the front of the fender before we removed the fender from the bike, but you still have the back 2. You're going to want to loosen those, take those off. So we are going to reuse those. If you're running a solo seat, right here at the top, you'll have a metal bracket that goes across here. All you have to do is remove the plastic tabs and then pull this complete mount out and then reinsert it back into the new fender in the existing 2 holes that are there. The only thing we have left is that nut that was above the tri-bar light when we originally started doing this. We loosened this. You want to remove this nut, this wire harness right here, and pull this bracket off. Now we have everything off of the fender that we need to transfer over to the new fender. We get ready to put these rear bolts back in. Take 2 of the flatter, thinner washers that we provide, 1 for each side in the back. Go ahead and run your nut through. Make sure you spin it until it catches. Put your washer on. Go ahead and snug that down. Do the same thing to the other side. Now if yours has a license plate already mounted on there, go ahead and get that frame off of there. Now you want to set your fender in. closer to the bottom if you can. If you have a lift or a jack to get the bike up off the floor a little bit, it'll help you do that. You're just going to simply squeeze in a little bit. Squeeze in on the other side. Bring it up into place. Once you have it in place, you can go ahead and rock it forward and go back to the side and put your front bolts back in. You can rock this fender down. You can see the bolt hole right there. Stick your bolt up through the inside to the outside. Spin it until it grabs. Take the provided washer that we've sent and the nut. Go ahead and tighten it down. Repeat the same thing on the other side. Now, before we get going too far in mounting the fender, you want to run your wire harness. Like I said, on mine, I'm going to run all 3 of the wires down the side of the fender between the frame and the fender on the left side. So I've got everything coming out right here. I've poked it through the middle right here. If you have air tanks and stuff like that for air ride, you're probably going to have to loosen this up because that Molex connector won't fit through there. I loosen these 2 bolts, move the air tank a little bit, poke the Molex connector through, put the air tank back, came back up to the top, and we're going to poke it through right here in front of the fender. This is going to come up like this is going to come over, and you're going to simply plug it right into your harness right here on top. And we're going to leave it unplugged until we get everything done. But from here, we're going to go ahead and put our bolt in the front, our bolt in the back, and do that on both sides, and then we'll mess with the bracket in the back. Now, before you go ahead and tighten these front ones down, go ahead and lift up on the rear of your fender. Make sure you look down in here that your bolt holes are lined up, and then run the back bolts in and get those started. Now, before you tighten everything down, go ahead and get your frame bolts back in, one on each side in the middle right there. Once you get those tightened down, go ahead and tighten your remaining 4 fender bolts. So it's not uncommon across the brands to have to trim your license plate a little bit when it comes to these style license plate frames. It is LED lighted and has a little wire in the back right here, and it's a very small frame. So not all plates are made equally the same. So you may have to trim a little bit off the top and also notch the back right here for your wires. Just make sure that when you notch this, that you bend the plate over a little bit. This can be a really sharp edge and you don't want that sitting there rubbing on the wire. So I actually cut a little bit farther than I need to. I take a pair of needle nose and I roll that plate over, that metal over, so the wire is sitting on something smooth and not sharp. Now, before I do any of this, I like to take some painter's tape and a nice soft cloth and put it along the bottom here to make sure that if this plate slides down, you're working out here and you're working on the inside, but if you lose your grip or whatever and this plate slides down, you're not scratching your paint. So the first thing we're going to do is take our bolt and our washer and put it through the middle of the fender right here. I'm going to go ahead on the inside and place a nut. We're going to tighten that down and secure that bolt to the fender. Make sure that's tight. And from here, I'm going to go ahead and run my top 2 screws in the license plate, poke the wire through, go ahead and set that in there like that, and that'll just kind of help hold it. Get that one started. We'll go ahead and get the top 2 in. You can generally hold these on the inside while you tighten the outside down. It's pretty easy. You don't need to get a wrench in there. Then we just finish up with the bottom 2. Now from there, you just want to reach up in here, get your wiring harness for your LED, get it plugged in. So this fender bracket goes on just like it came off, except now we have a bolt back here through the fender with the nut on it that we just put on. That's going to have to go through right here. So now we're going to take this fender bracket, we're going to put it up in here, we're going to slide it back onto that bolt that we just put in and secured with the nut. When you're doing this, make sure that you feel for your license plate wire. You push it up and out of the way. You don't want this pinched between the metal and the fender. And once we get it on the bolt back there, we can go ahead and take the nut and put it on there. Just kind of hand tighten it just to hold it, and now you can let go of it. We're going to go ahead and get it back on the bracket right here on the side. Just like that. Get our nut on, get it started, and then go to the other side. And I'll push this one up into place. Put our bolt in. And from there, you just want to go ahead and get those tightened down. So from here, the only thing you have left to do is go ahead and secure that second nut that we put on that's on the other side of the fender bracket. If these 3 clips right here are empty, you can go ahead and zip tie all of these together and poke one through the back side of this. It just hangs in there. But if you do have cables in there, zip tie them together and put them with those cables. Either way, we've got some air line and electrical for the air ride in there. So we're just going to take the included zip ties and go ahead and pull it up tight so it doesn't get into the tire. Make sure everything's on the outside of the fender. You don't want it on the inside of the fender where it could potentially get into the tire. Now you know everything's pulled up tight and it can't get into the tire, you're good. Now all you have to do is come back up here, bend this over and plug this into your harness. So remember, it's the black side. It's only gonna go one way. But I have serial stuff that controls other lights, so I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect it there because I know that's the last spot that went back to my original harness. So I can go ahead and plug that in. Once you get your side covers, your saddlebags, and your seat back on, there you have it. Now, as you can see, like I said in the beginning of the video, this is the no cutout version, but these sides actually come down and match the bag. If you have the dual cut or the single cut, it's gonna match the curvature in the extended bags. Where the typical CVO fender cuts off right below the light and comes over, you've got a pretty good sized gap right here between your extended bag and the fender parts. So this is the extended version. And as you can see right here, bright white LED light that's built into the license plate frame. And you've got your standard CVO tail lights that run vertical up and down, but you have all of that on an extended fender. So that's it, guys. That's how easy it is to change your rear fender. It's not super hard, but it is a little bit time consuming, so make sure that you give yourself enough time to get it done and do it right. And before I get off here, I want to show you the dual cut version. We will be offering this in a dual cut, single cut, or no cut like you just saw me install on the Street Glide. It's going to be based on what exhaust you have. If you have dual exhaust, single exhaust, or maybe a side dump or custom turn downs like we have on the Street Glide back there, you can do the no cut. But once again, you can get the license plate frame in black or chrome, and you can get the tail lights in red or smoke. You can see on the Amber Whiskey here for the Road Glide, we've got the smoke in the black, and you just saw me install the chrome with the red on the Street Glide. I'm going to wrap it up, guys. If you have any questions on this, drop it in the comment box down below, or jump on over to advanblack.com, scroll all the way down to any page on the website. You'll see the phone numbers down there. You can contact me, the service technician, and I'll get you installed. I'll actually walk you through it and we'll get you installed. I'm going to get out of here and get back to work. I'll catch you guys in the next video, but until then, as always, be safe and keep your knees in the breeze.